Court policies, the next title. 20 statutes under court policies. First, you can appeal to higher courts. We do that today. We have a multi-tiered court system. Moses set up the judges, and they judge the people at all seasons. The great matters they will bring to him, and every small matter that he will judge. There shall be no perjury. We still follow this, but we're breaking a few of God's commandments about it, which would help enforce this. An oath of truth shall be given when the matter cannot be resolved. We don't really do that. But if a judge cannot if there's not enough witnesses, facts, and evidence, and he can't make a decision, or the jury can't make a decision, you'd put the two under an oath. Courts will carry out the law for both plaintiff and defendant. The cause of both parties shall come before the judges. We do that. Property rights are decided by the courts. For all manner of trespass, for ox, for ass, for sheep, for raiment, or any lost thing shall come before the judges. So we do that. We follow most of these statutes. There shall be no mob punishment. Okay, this one's a little tricky to understand, but it says, thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil. Well, we need to look at the context. Thou shalt not raise a false report. Okay, that's being a witness. Put not thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. That's talking about a witness. Neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment. It's talking about a witness. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil. That would be trying to take justice out of the hands of the court. It's like our lynch mobs. You're not supposed to take someone to judgment before it goes to court. And that's what that's talking about. So there shall be no mob punishment. The mob needs to trust the courts to make the right decision. All who have knowledge of evidence must testify. I don't know if we entirely do that. But if you have evidence and you don't testify, there's a punishment under God's law. The guilty can be placed in ward until sentencing. We actually do that one. The congregation or jury of the people will judge criminal cases. So there's going to be a jury of your peers to judge criminal cases. The witness shall be first to lay hands on the guilty. That will stop perjury. If you're going to go up there as a witness to convict someone of a capital felony, if you have to cast the first stone, how many people are actually going to be perjurers? Not too many people. I wish we were doing this one. If you had to pull the switch or whatever we're doing, that makes a big difference. Of course, we don't execute like we used to anyways. Punishment can be executed by the men of the city, so after the witness throws the first stone, the rest of the men would finish the job. Act according to the rule of the judges. This is what we call contempt of court. We need to follow everything that they say. In fact, the Messiah was the perfect example. What did he say? The scribes and Pharisees sit in Moses' seat. They sit in the judge's seat. All therefore, whatsoever they bid you, whatsoever they charge you with from the judge's seat, whatever sentence they give you, that observe and do. We're supposed to follow their lead. After all, was not Jesus, our Messiah, falsely convicted? Yet he followed through with the sentence anyways. We're to do the same thing. Sometimes this judicial system, although God created it, because man runs it, it's going to get it wrong. And we're supposed to follow it anyways. What I've noticed is it gets it right most of the time. Moses' seat, it says where Moses sat to judge the people. It was called the Bema seat. It was in all the synagogues and all the high places and all the courts of Israel. There is no contempt of court. I've already said that. I told you there's a couple of duplicates in here. If the man will not hearken unto the priest that stands to minister there before the Lord thy God, or unto the judge, even that man shall die. Contempt of court is a capital felony. No pity is to be given in the execution of punishment. 15. All testimony is at the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses. We still do that today. Punishments are to be public. I wish we'd do that, but did you know in colonial America, when they hung someone, you could find pictures online. I should have put that up here. A mob of people surrounding them, watching the man be hung, with their children there to watch to teach them a lesson.
So how long has it been? It hasn't been that long.
A couple hundred years ago we were doing this, pretty close to right. From my study, I think America is one of the best nations in all of history to practice God's law. King David in Israel and Solomon's early part might have been better. Pretty close. But I put up the numbers. I think we were approaching over 80% of God's law. We're now down to 20-something. Remember the first study that I put up there? It was just a rough guess. But I don't think any nation's ever followed all of God's law. But King David and Solomon's early reign, I think they were pretty good. Those were probably the best nations. America, look how blessed we've been. I mean, we've been so blessed beyond almost any nation ever. It's hard to say we're not. When you go back and study the common law and see what we were following, man, we were doing a pretty good job. We were right on the money, especially when you look at the spirit of the law. We got to avoid that letter and all the little details that we get mixed up on. There's nothing wrong with the letter, but if it doesn't fit today and we can still follow the intent of the lawmaker, that's what we need to follow.
When did lawyers come in the picture?
Lawyers, I think God's a fan of pro se litigants, people who represent themselves. When Hosea said, "My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge," just a little bit later he says, "Because you've forgotten the law of your God." If we can't represent ourselves in court, when you hire a lawyer, you give them your power of attorney. They make all they call all the shots now. It's because we're ignorant of how the legal system works. We should be able to represent ourselves, and how many people can do that? 200 years ago, everybody knew how to do it. It was just common knowledge.
Because they knew the word.
No, exactly. They knew. It was just something that everybody knew. And it's something today we've totally lost sight of. Each man will pay for his own sins. I like that one. The father shall not be put to death for the children, neither shall the children be put to death for the fathers. Every man shall be put to death for his own sins. The aim of judgment should be to justify the righteous and condemn the wicked. Remember when I said the common law is a justice system? That comes from this verse. It construes a law. It doesn't hear different sides of arguments based on... It's not an equity court like we do today. It looks at the law and compares what your evidence is to that law. There's a big difference. And finally, a sentence is to be executed speedily. We call that due process today. It's exactly what the scripture comes. Let the judgment be executed speedily upon him. Okay, so you can see we're following most of these commandments. We're just not following all of them. There's a few critical ones.